Okay, today we're tackling two conditions that, affect millions of people, diabetes and peripheral artery disease. And what's kind of scary is just how dangerously they're linked. But here's the good news, and really the whole point of our story today. A simple, powerful tool, movement, can literally act as medicine. So let's dive right in. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been out for a walk and suddenly felt this cramping, this ache in your legs, and it's so bad you just have to stop? Well, a lot of people think, oh, I'm just getting older, but it's not always that simple. For many, that's a key symptom. It's called intermittent claudication, and it's a huge warning sign that something serious is going on with your circulation. And when I say serious, I mean this is a massive problem. The condition that causes that leg pain, it's called peripheral artery disease, or PAD for short. And it affects more than 200 million people worldwide. I mean, just let that number sink in. That's a staggering amount of people, which tells you just how widespread this thing really is. All right, so what is PAD exactly? The easiest way to think about it is like this. Imagine the plumbing in your house. Now imagine those pipes getting all clogged up over time. That's basically what's happening in your legs. A sticky gunk called plaque builds up inside your arteries. The technical term is atherosclerosis, but all you need to know is that it narrows those arteries and chokes off the blood flow to your legs. Okay, but here's where things get really, really interesting and kind of worrying. It's the company that PAD keeps. It has this incredibly strong and frankly dangerous relationship with diabetes. I mean, get this. A full one-third, one out of every three patients with PAD also has diabetes. And believe me, that is no coincidence. These two are completely intertwined. And when this dangerous duo team up, well, the stakes get incredibly high. It's no joke. If you have both PAD and diabetes, your risk of death is at least double that of the general population. And even more shocking, you're 5 times more likely to need an amputation than someone with PAD who doesn't have diabetes. 5 times. This is exactly why this connection is so critical to understand. So, the big question is, how? How does diabetes cause so much damage to our arteries? Well, it all happens on a microscopic level. It's like this invisible threat, all driven by high blood sugar. So let's, peel back the curtain and look at the actual biology here. All right, now this diagram might look a little intense at first, but don't worry, it tells a really important story. What we're looking at here is what's happening deep inside our blood vessels when there's just too much sugar in the system. And the main character in this story is something called the endothelium, which is just a fancy name for the super delicate inner lining of our arteries. Let's break this cascade of damage down step by step. So first up, high blood sugar. This creates these nasty little molecules called AGEs. You can kind of think of them like sugar getting caramelized inside you. Not good. Step 2, these sticky AGEs grab onto the artery walls, and they basically flip a danger switch on those cells. Then, step 3, flipping that switch triggers all these alarm bells. These are inflammatory signals called cytokines. And finally, what happens when all those alarms go off? Total chaos. Plaque starts building up, the arteries get stiff, and blood flow just gets choked off. And that's the damage, right there in a nutshell. Okay, so I know that sounds pretty grim, right? But here's the pivot. There is an incredibly powerful, super accessible, and scientifically proven solution. We can fight back. And not just with pills, but with something every single one of us can do. Move. So let's talk about how movement literally becomes a prescription for health. And look, this isn't just some friendly advice like, oh, you should exercise more. No, this is serious. Major medical guidelines now recommend exercise training programs as the initial first-line treatment for that leg pain from PAD. That completely changes the game. It takes exercise from being just a healthy lifestyle choice and makes it a core medical therapy. And just to put the power of this into perspective for you, right now, there are only just two medications that are FDA approved to help people with PAD walk better. And honestly, their benefits are often pretty modest. But then you look at exercise, and study after study shows that a structured program can be way more effective. It's a real game changer. And you don't have to take my word for it. The proof is right here. Check out these results from a 12-week study. They're just stunning. The group that did nothing, the control group, saw basically no change. But the group exercising at home, they added almost 2 whole minutes to how long they could walk without pain. And the group with supervised exercise, wow, over 3 minutes longer.
That's not just a small improvement, that is absolutely life-changing.
So basically, this shows us there are two great paths to getting better. On one hand, you've got supervised exercise. This is usually in a clinic, it's even covered by Medicare here in the US, and it gets the absolute best results on those treadmill tests. But then you have home-based exercise. It's way more convenient, obviously. And what's really cool is that it actually shows better improvement in real-world walking. Like how far you can actually get in 6 minutes. The bottom line? Both work. They're both fantastic paths to better health.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, what does this exercise prescription actually look like in real life? Well, the good news is it's not nearly as complicated as it sounds. Let's break down a really simple and effective plan to get you started. First, let's talk about the tools of the trade. They're pretty straightforward. You've got the treadmill, which is kind of the gold standard for a lot of these programs. Then you have Nordic walking poles. These are fantastic, by the way, because they get your upper body involved and take some of the strain off your legs. And hey, if walking is just too much right now, a stationary bike is an awesome low-impact way to get the same benefits. All right, here is the actual plan, the prescription, right here. The goal is to do this 3 to 5 times a week. Now, you start small, just 10 or 15 minutes. Then each week, you just add another 5 minutes, working your way up to about 45 to 60 minutes. But here's the real key, the secret sauce: intensity. You walk until you feel that moderate leg pain. Then you stop and rest until it's gone, and then you go again. You repeat that cycle for your session, and you've got to stick with it for at least 12 weeks to really see those big benefits.
And before you start, let's go over a few keys to making this work for you. First, be patient. This isn't an overnight fix. You'll start noticing a real difference after about 4 weeks. Second, and this is so important, it is totally normal and actually expected to stop and rest because of the pain. That's part of the therapy. Third, consistency is everything. Just showing up regularly is way more important than going super hard at the beginning. And last but not least, especially if you have diabetes, proper foot care after you exercise is absolutely non-negotiable.
So exercise is obviously the star of the show here. It's the cornerstone of treatment. But it's not the only tool in the toolbox. It's part of a much bigger picture. So let's just take a quick look at some other therapies before we get to the final takeaway. Yeah, there are other treatments that can play a really important supporting role. You've got things like pneumatic compression, which are basically sleeves that squeeze your legs to boost blood flow. There's hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which uses pure oxygen to help heal stubborn ulcers. You've even got functional electrical stimulation, or FES, to get muscles contracting, and also things like lower limb offloading, which just means taking pressure off the foot to help treat ulcers. All of these can be used right alongside exercise. So if there is one single thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. For anybody out there who is dealing with both PAD and diabetes, structured movement isn't just a good idea. It's not just healthy. It is powerful, non-invasive medicine. It is literally a prescription you can start filling for yourself today. And that really brings us to the end. The science is clear. The plan is surprisingly straightforward. So the only real question left is for you. What is the first step, even a small one, that you can take towards healthier movement?